You're a fraud.
You're a liberal hack.
Thanks for having me, by the way, guys.
Yeah, no,
it's good. It's good to have you on. Ed's been on before, as you might know, Jake. But
long time.
I listened to that episode.
It's fun having guests. I think we always love it. So we've had heaps of. We had Tim. Like other people.
Tim. What was his?
Holly Harrigan for the ones with the big hack and the fraud law interest.
Yeah,
they'll know Harrigan and Holly. And now Jake added to the pantheon of great characters.
Yeah. Do you have a name you want to be known as?
So fun fact, him and I have been planning to do our own podcast since the day we met, and it was always going to be called Weebeck and the Beard. So I'm happy to just pick the beard.
The beard, I like that. We got the beard in. Okay, that's good. I like that.
What was Ed's call sign?
I don't remember.
It was literally just Weebeck and the Beard.
Weebeck and the Beard. It's like Daddy and the boy.
And so powerful and magnanimous that it doesn't need shortening.
It's like I always study Daddy and the Boy.
No, what's that character you went as at Halloween? It was fucking Witcher. What's the Witcher called?
Geralt.
Geralt.
I was going to say Witch Halloween, and then I remembered you've just done fucking
Geralt
several times.
So it'd be nice and broody. Hey Ryan, and yours is working. All good.
I selected. It does say it's selected the Yeti. Does it sound like it's coming through a microphone instead of a computer microphone?
I think it sounds good to me.
All right.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good.
Well, we're already recording, so
let's just get straight into it.
Straight into it. Hacking the Fraud, another episode back. Guest star Jake, guest star Ed, and Nick and Ryan here as always. And this week we're doing a film study of a French-Canadian director. Nick, you're a big fan.
I'm a big fan, and I was going to suggest that our guests might be able to say the director's name, because we're probably going to butcher it.
Well, no, we know it.
We know it 100%.
This is a traditional part of the Hack and the Fraud. This is part of our Hackspitality, and we give you the director introduction for this one.
This feels a lot like hazing.
This is a bit hazing, like.
Boys, your assholes are safe. Don't worry about that.
Denis Villeneuve.
Oh, it's Villeneuve. Oh, it sounds Russian almost.
Denis Villeneuve.
Villeneuve. That's good. We got it in between those two.
I actually don't know how. Do you know how it's pronounced, Nick? I don't know. I've never.
And I got to say, good to ease attention there to say their assholes are safe. I think that's helped a lot. I think
friendship.
So we normally what we do is critique, obviously, the director and their sort of portfolio of films. So for mine, I've watched 5 of his main films. I'm looking at Letterboxd now, and they're basically his 5 main films, minus obviously Dune, the one that's come out. But we like to go through what our favorite film is by Denis, what our least favorite film is, or what the most overrated film possibly is, and then obviously discuss, how it can be better, because obviously Denis is going to be listening to this and he wants notes.
Oh, the Hack and the Fraud, he'll be right on us.
Well, he doesn't do anything without listening to this. That's what I've heard.
Yeah. You've already improved Martin Scorsese from all those weeks ago.
Killers of the Flower Moon, that's right. He done some final edits just before he released it.
Yeah, he's taken your notes.
I think we said, release the trailer. And then a week later.
I mean, it was a hell of a trailer, though.
It's a good trailer. But you missed the Scorsese episode.
I know. I think we're getting a bit spoiled for movies coming out very soon when we've been kind of lackluster for the past, let's say, 2 years. I don't know. But you got, the Barbie and Oppenheimer out together. I want to do 2 at once.
Yeah,
one's a boys' night at the cinema. The other's a IMAX fest at Oppenheimer.
Well, no, that's true, and I can't wait to go and see Barbie in IMAX.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a coffee, a few cigarettes, do Oppenheimer, have a big tall glass of whiskey, take something else, and go see Barbie in shorts and singlet with the girls, but actually with the boys.
I feel like
that's the only way to do it.
Oppenheimer to me is like girls sad on their birthday, go watch it. and they're like, "That's literally me. I know exactly what he feels like."
I think so. I think that's absolutely hit the nail on the head. Whereas, yeah, it's just complete boys, absolute boys. Just it's like there's just it's gonna be a rowdy cinema trip to watch the bar. I think you're gonna get a lot of comments from the cinema from the audience
To watch Barbie with the boys.
to watch Barbie.
with the
That's
boys.
it.
Yeah. Can't wait.
All right. Anyway, let's talk. We're talking movies. Maybe I'll get started.
Yeah,
So,
Nico, what's your fave?
My favorite, I think, as much as I love Dune and his take on Dune, for me, which was just visually stunning, I fell in love with Blade Runner 2049. It's a really hard ask to, especially, it came out at a time, if you remember, where all these sort of sequels were just kind of being rehashed and made with very little thought. It's just basically studios saw this as a big cash grab and quick cash grab, like Total Recall. I want to say Dread.
Unrelated. Did you see the Wonka trailer? Or
Oh my god!
What is that? Is that actually a thing?
Turns out,
okay.
Chalamet can do wrong.
I was gonna say, if you were gonna guess, if you didn't know who was playing Wonka, you would guess probably Timothy Chalamet. This might be the anyway. Sorry, go on, Nico.
Is Timothy Burton the director?
No.
Man, like, that's what would be my other guess. And Johnny Depp would be one of the Oompas or something. or no, Grandpa Joe for sure. Look, I think this one was what like it's a hard sequel because Blade Runner is one of the greatest sci-fi films of all time by Ridley Scott, and I don't think anyone would be able to really hold a candle to as a sequel like from a different director. And Denis kills it. He actually does. I'm not saying it's a better film. But I think it captures the heart of what Blade Runner, the original, was about, I think, while expanding on it and not telling the same story, telling something new, which is what a lot of these sequels didn't do. So I guess I'm comparing it with a lot of those sequels and saying that's what a sequel should be.
Yeah, I actually totally agree with that. I was just saying to Ed before we came on air, I think what they do so well, or what Denis does so well in Blade Runner, was to capture something that was such a unique style that had already been perfected once, and any straying from that would have been really obvious, and it wouldn't have suited such a clear sort of mise en scene, I guess, that already existed in the first one. And he does such a good job of capturing all the important elements of it and expanding it and growing it and telling you something new within the frame of what was a really well-defined world already.
Yeah, and on that note, Harrison Ford doing a good film post 2000s. The man's a dumpster fire since the turn of the millennium.
That's unfortunately true.
Unfortunately, we've got an Indiana Jones 4. We've got an Indiana Jones 4 fan here, don't we, Rhino?
Yeah, it's better than Temple of Doom for sure, like 100%.
Come on,
easily clears it.
You're derailing this podcast.
No, it's a classic Indiana Jones adventure, and I was a big fan.
We haven't seen it yet, and I want
this
to
is the
be
fourth one. It's the
disproven.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
It's the one that you forgot about because we all forgot about it because it's so trashy. It's like that. Yeah, I thought that was the fourth one, the one that's coming out. I was like, oh wait, no, there was that one where he died died in a bloody lead. The aliens one, and he was in a lead fridge.
Yeah, that was a very cool scene. I really enjoyed the nuke scene. Watching it again recently, it's fine. Like he jumps out of a plane and like parachutes down. Anyway,
nice prequel.
My take on Blade Runner was that it's a good movie. Like undoubtedly, I like the performances a lot, and I like a lot of what he's doing with it. I disagree that he has managed to capture, like, thematically and artistically what the original Blade Runner was able to capture. But I think, like, aesthetically, he did obviously do a good job of, like, fitting into the universe. And not just on a surface level, because he is exploring the themes, but I'm not sure what more I got out of 2049 that I didn't get out of Blade Runner. I don't think it's going to be the classic that Blade Runner was, which is kind of like what the metric is for a sequel.
No, I get that. That's a good point. I think you're right in terms of thematically. I don't think anyone's going to doubt that Blade Runner as a sci-fi, hardcore sci-fi, was able to nail the theme and had a much more high. What would you call it? Like it sort of reached for this. It's kind of like the original Blade Runner in terms of its theme.
I think it
had a bit more to
explores.
say on the human condition and androids and everything. I'm not disagreeing with that, but I don't think it was a dumber version of that. Or is that not what you're saying? Is
Not a dumber version. I'm just not sure that it was even. Maybe it was. Maybe it was trying to do exactly what the original Blade Runner was. I don't think so, but I'm just not sure that. Yeah, not dumber. That's probably the wrong word, but it's just less successful. But that's a hard criticism to make because Blade Runner's a stone cold classic. Like
so high concept.
It's a special movie, like the original special movie, and that's what we love about movies, right? That one that comes along every now and then and changes like everything about the genre, for example. So I don't, and yeah, obviously 2049 is not on that level, but I still enjoyed it a lot. And again, like the Vangelis soundtrack in 1980. Blew your mind, right? But I sort of mimicked Vangelis soundtrack
that's right.
in 2017 or whatever. It doesn't have the same impact to me.
No, I agree with that. I was going to say that was my caveat, was that the as much I love Hans Zimmer and I've obviously been to see him in concert, but I think what he had to work with there was basically just do what
just copy
and paste and add a little bit of like
but
your
mainly
own flair to it. But it wasn't like Hans Zimmer at his best, because he was basically just trying not to. He had a thing. He had sheet music to work with. Like he had sort of like a bass to work with. Yeah. Whereas, for example, in Interstellar, when we're talking about that, it was just okay. Think of a daughter and a father, and he's like, okay, cool. Then it's
That's a good Blade. Does anybody have a? Sorry, Ed, go on.
Oh, was that the first role of Ana de Armas? Blade Runner 2049?
I don't think first, but
first one noticed.
The first one I very much
maybe
noticed.
The first,
that's right.
Yeah, we know.
That's a good point. Yeah, when the same audience, the same Barbie demographic really noticed Ana de Armas on screen. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think I grew up for a second time. No, I'm kidding. she's great. No, I like her.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
He was so good in that scene in James Bond. Where...
Yeah, she stole the movie. She's the best bit.
I think we're telling everyone stuff that they already know, but I do love the story that she got that role because of how much Daniel Craig loved her in Knives Out, and they literally made a part for her in that movie. That's why it's so out of place, because like. Which is like she's just there, and you think she's coming back, but she never does. But it's great though,
and it's the best
part of the movie. Yeah, it is.
I respect her hustle on that.
I respect that Daniel Craig could do that. Imagine being the guy that plays James Bond and basically having like the same world shifting power as James Bond.
He actually did, because he's like, "Kill me, please kill me." Kill me.
Yeah,
you don't retire.
Give me $40 million first, then whatever it was.
Bit of do you guys have a favorite Denis?
That's not Blade Runner.
That's not Blade
Jake, you want to go first?
Yeah, it's a struggle for me because it's down to two films. But I know Ed's probably going to pick the one that I want, so it's fine. I'm a massive nerd for Dune. It's like one of my favorites. It's the seminal sci-fi book of my childhood, and I loved it. It's also the book that has been attempted to be turned into films multiple times, and TV films and series, and also they've had 1,000 goes at it, right? And they said it couldn't be done. So I think. Denis, I love how I'm avoiding the surname here, but Denis' approach to Dune was about as close to perfect as you can get for a story that is really too big for cinema. I absolutely love just the sheer scale of it, and I think the sound design is absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, it's really honorable mention for Sicario, though. Like, until Dune came out, it would have been Sicario.
Yeah. I'm a Sicario.
I'll add to that as it's the visually most beautiful film and best film I've ever seen. It hit the mark. I think we did. No, seriously. We did a review on it, and I said visually for me that was the best, like as a visceral piece.
I think the most stunning, like it may be like it's not the most beautiful or like artistic, but like stunning in terms of the scale of its imagery. I can agree with that.
And it's conceptually very clear, I think. I mean, he set out from the beginning to show the size of the world that these characters lived in, and it's that there's something about the just the constant use of these huge wide shots and these ships that tower over planets. And even though you only ever see, you know, tens of people on screen at once, you get the idea that this universe is enormous, and it's so immersive because of that scale. You feel like you're one little speck in that huge universe. That sense of space is done so well in that film.
Yeah, I got to say, Jake's very obsessed with Dune. When I went to see it, he gave me a voice message where he was doing the Gregorian throat chanting.
Yeah,
Cool scene.
He's very good at that, actually. You know, the ones they do in the movie.
Yeah.
Who knows how it sounds like?
Like we say these things about Dune, right? The too big for cinema, unfilmable, tried 1,000 times and failed. Do we think that maybe they were right all along? Possibly. Because Dune is fine. Like, did you feel like it's the Star Wars of your generation kind of thing? Or I know a lot of people enjoyed it.
No, but I didn't when it was the book. I mean, I hate to be one of those book burst film guys. Have you read the book?
I've started trying to read the book.
Yeah, I know. I get that. It's a tome.
But I wonder if it's like Lord of the Rings for you, like, because obviously I read Lord of the Rings and then loved the Peter Jackson version. I'd put up with the cartoons, I suppose, as though they're the only other things that were there. But the Lord of the Rings, even the Hobbit, no, not the Hobbit, the Lord of the Rings 1, 2, and 3 were absolutely, like, they even sort of they took scenes from the book that were just not going to really translate well to cinema and sort of blended them into different characters. Yeah, Game of Thrones, Ryan. That's right. So for you as a Dune fan, and that's of the book, and having watched the previous version was like David Lynch directed the previous version, which is not a hack or a fraud. So he's so it's been attempted by really great directors, but the fact that it translated well for you, that's interesting.
Yeah, because I think what hadn't been done before, and back to the question of do you just at some point admit something is too big for film? And I mean, I guess not everything works in cross medias, or cross platforms.
Books can be bigger, yeah.
But I guess what needed to be done to make Dune a good story was for someone to come along and do a really good job of picking out the themes and the few really important moments. So it's not that it's too big. It's the bigger it gets, it can still be turned into a good film, no matter how sort of deep the ideas or thick the plot of a book. It's about someone coming along and knowing which are the bits to pick and which are the bits to leave in order to still get the overall story across, And I think that Denis Villeneuve's done that really well in Dune.
Before I forget, I'll just say that that is what I felt like watching the movie as a non-book reader, that somebody had gone through this really enormous tome and cut out all the kind of filler stuff, not filler, but like in between stuff, and just given us like the mushed down, like abridged version, like this. Watching it felt like there was too much to adapt. Like, it is a part 1, but it didn't have like a 3-act structure. It kind of had like 2 halves to the film, and then it kind of had a bit of an epilogue and an ending. So the pacing was really off for me. I wasn't sure where we were in the movie or what to feel like. When Josh Brolin's character, who didn't die obviously, but when that happened and that was a big moment in the movie, I thought that was closer to the end. But then we had a massive stretch afterwards, and then we had like the weird kind of one-on-one fight in the desert, and all this stuff to book readers has more significance. But to me, it felt like we're going from this place to this place, and I'm not really engaged with the plot because it does seem to just be skipping along and not giving me time to immerse in it, even though it is like a long movie in a part 1 of a part 2. That's how I felt about it.
From that perspective, I think that's a really fair point.
Yeah, I think as a non-book reader, I watched
you can read books.
No.
We're not telling you can't read books here. You can go and read a book. Go read a book yesterday.
You can learn. It's
one of these things. Words.
Hey.
Joke. I wasn't as lost as I thought I'd be in it watching it. Because I was like, this thing is big and epic, and everyone's. I think some of the previous reviews were like, you might get a little bit lost if you are a non-book reader, but I think he did the best he could, and that's all we really ask for.
That's true. I mean, he does a good job of the directing. Like, that's the thing. I do kind of feel like my criticisms of Denis come from the scripts that he's working with. Like, there's what's happening in the film, because from like a filmmaking perspective, he understands movies and he also understands like the filmmaking process. And I feel like, yeah, all of his movies have like, even from his earliest stuff, have that touch of kind of like a master craftsman. It's just some of his movies I just, yeah, really dislike what's happening in the movie altogether. So that makes it hard to watch. But he is like a great filmmaker. I do think that.
Oh, 100% agree.
Do you want to
So,
say
I guess
Your favorite film?
Yeah, well, Jake alluded to Sicario, and while that is a top-notch film, and you kind of saw the dip in quality when there was the second one not directed by him.
Oh, yeah.
But I think my all-time favorite Denis Deville's is Prisoners, and the reason why is because I think on 2 or 3 occasions I pretended I haven't watched it just so I could like watch it with someone else because I wanted to watch it again and be like, oh, I'm so surprised, what's going to happen? There's a bit of
We should bet on the result of this.
slyness, a bit of deception to me watching it, but I was just wowed by that film. I think it's almost 10 years old now. Yeah, just the it's simple story, but I don't know, ones that had you like ride. I don't know, I had myself riding up and down with it, with all that's going on. So for those who haven't seen it, it's, how far a dad would go for his kidnapped daughter, and it's got a big part with the cop who's trying to solve the case, and there's some good twists and turns through it, but ultimately there's that sense of good dread and hope, I guess. It's hard to say.
It's
Like
also
that,
just a really good performance from Hugh Jackman.
And Jake
I
Gyllenhaal.
always like I like films where the main character, and this is Hugh Jackman, you sort of question, is he gone too far? I mean, should he be pulling out all stops looking for his daughter? Was it daughter? Forgot if it was daughter.
Yeah, daughter.
But similar to another one, Gone Baby Gone,
Ooh.
where the main character makes that decision at the very end of the film, and you either agree or you disagree. You think it's right or morally right. So yeah, I like a film that sort of has a complex character and character decision like that you don't necessarily agree with, but you know that he's the protagonist, and you can totally understand why they've done the things that they've done.
Yeah, it's also got that good. I don't think it has much of a score from memory, but it's just got those still shots of northern, like I said, let's say Minnesota, and it's always rainy. There's that depressive overlay. There's the shots of the camper van, I suppose, where people get kidnapped, and it's just got a really good mystery. I was just amazed, especially the last scene. I won't go to spoilers, but. Yeah, I was just like,
spoilers.
I mean, it didn't just come out.
Yeah, it's been enough.
Yeah, true. It's that's right.
I actually
forgot
forgot about that. So.
I'll also add, Jake Gyllenhaal's in it. I think he's one of, or if not my favorite part. And there's a great video about his performance in a movie called what's it called, the Nightcrawler, and his his performance in this movie, and he blinks so often in this movie. He blinks often, and he doesn't blink at all in Nightcrawler, and it's just there's a video that showed the two differences. I know one's a blinker, but his blinking is so good for his character. The video explains it way better than I am, but basically,
because he's meant to be.
You side with him a bit more because he's sort of you can see he's a bit vulnerable.
You can tell he's taking it on.
He's taking it on.
Baggage. Yeah, for
Yep.
sure. Yeah, have you seen that one, Ryan?
I have, but not in. I think I have it on Blu-ray actually behind me, but I haven't seen it in 10 years, so I don't remember much apart from Hugh Jackman being like really like depressing looking and just good performances is what I remember. But no, I have no idea. Does he kill like somebody at the end or something? I can't remember.
Not quite. No, he very seriously maims.
Is it with a hammer maybe or something?
Yeah, no, there is that. Yeah, it's
been a while.
It's like I think at the
thinking
time,
of
reprehensible, but you're like, God, would I do the same thing, knowing what he knows?
Yeah, maybe. Well, this is interesting. We all have a different favorite because mine is Sicario, and it's actually been a while since I watched Sicario as well. But the things that I liked about it is very tense thriller. He keeps the pace going kind of the entire time. Unfolds, you got like the twists and stuff. It's kind of about like it's a fun movie, even though it is like a horrible movie, but it's still got like cool scenes of action and stuff, and just a world that we haven't seen much of, or we do, but like it's always interesting to see these movies where you get to have a bit more of an in-depth look at like a world that you're not familiar with, like some really like iconic cinematography shots. There's one that still like is burned into my memory right now, which is like the sun it's like dusk, but it's like so close to not being dusk, and like the black silhouettes against like the deep red.
I love that scene too.
That shot kills me every time. And yeah, performances and everything. Like I think that's probably where, and this is probably where Denis shines the most for me, right? Because he doesn't have to tackle like the biggest themes ever, like what is a human, what is death and stuff. It's kind of like, it has obviously bits of that, but it's more grounded, right? And he's able to just use that filmmaking technique that he has to apply it to like a grounded, thrilling story where there's less room for interpretation. And really what is good about his contribution to the film is like his artistic flourishes across like the whole canvas. And yeah, the pacing, obviously, I think is just a thriller. It's like the 10 out of 10 thriller. I'm a big fan.
The pacing, absolutely. That's one of his films that's like real edge of your seat, sort of what's going to happen next. The setting of it and the cinematography, that's one of the ones that he did with Richard Deakins as cinematographer, and it's phenomenal. I was listening to a podcast with Richard Deakins and Denis just recently, today, let's be honest, it was research for this. But they were saying how that they sort of inadvertently ended up using lots of wide shots and letting the background be a background, so rather than just seeing these close-ups that you see, and you'll see this all through Villeneuve's like more recent films as well, is that when he's focusing on a character and the character's thoughts and whatnot, you see a close-up, sure, where they're necessary, but otherwise he tries to use space and make his shots really expansive, right? So you get a feeling of not just what the character's feeling and what they're going through, but the location they're in and the elements around them. So he's talking about this scene where the SUVs pull up after a big raid, and Josh Brolin gets out. Anyway, he filmed it all in wide just to get the scene, and then was supposed to go back to film the close-ups. Ended up deciding not to because he thought it felt better to ground the characters in the wider scene. And he does that a lot, especially every time he works with Richard Deakins, but then also on Dune, which was that was an Australian guy. It wasn't Deakins. Very similar style, though. It's definitely become like a hallmark of Denis Villeneuve, is those using the set as a set. He does everything on location, and it's all about the background, and Sicario does that so well.
Yeah, I kind of agree on that one. I think you're talking about the scene where Blunt comes over and yeah. And that's after probably my favorite part from the film, the intense border crossing, where there's shots after into cars and stuff, and I don't know, it's like it's just
you follow Emily Blunt's character, and you basically get her point of view the whole time. Yeah,
yes,
who's new to this whole
real
border? Yeah.
So cool. That's
brilliant. It really, I think I agree with you. I think this is the how to do an effective thriller, like 10 out of 10. That's you sort of showcase this as basically
film school.
This is very effective. I'll also say, if you guys ever watch the movie Traffic, I feel like this is the unofficial sequel to it. Especially with Benicio del Toro's character.
King.
Man, just a note on that. You can say it's the actor, you can say it's the director, however you look at it. Whoever did it, Benicio's performance in Sicario is really such a large part of what makes it. And I'd argue that, a lot of that comes from working with the right director.
Yeah,
it's the same. Yeah.
It's like 1/3. Sorry, you...
Oh, sorry. He also did his research. So he's done so many different movies. Like he's done one about a thriller, and like this one's a military movie in a way, not like directly about it. But he did his research because you notice like how professional the American shoulders are shooting when there's that scene. They're just like tap tap tap, like the way they point their guns. Like this was all painstakingly researched compared to like how a cartel member would do it, and those little things, your brain notices it, and it makes it feel so much more real.
Yeah, well, like I say,
it's about the immersion.
It's grounded. It's super grounded. You just and scenes like the border crossing and like sticking with the one character, it helps with that. But yeah, let's.
I'll I was going to say one we haven't said, and this is maybe a good one because it was something that was very well acclaimed. However, it didn't land for me. In fact, I thought it was talking about his he sometimes it doesn't really grapple the high concept very well, and I thought that's exactly what happened in this film. It was Arrival, and it's basically a film about language, and I thought he was out of his depth completely. I wonder what you guys reckon.
Oh, look, I don't hate Arrival, but I don't see it as a film about language. I see it as a film about breaking a cycle of violence and sort of as the entirety of humanity being a naturally violent species, having to overcome that in the face of a huge danger and put our trust in the unknown, I guess. I think, yeah, it's an awkward one. Surprisingly good performance from Jeremy Renner too.
Yes,
I didn't think so. I like him normally. I thought he was the blandest character ever. He was a shell of a person. He was basically just there as foil for Amy Adams.
But so hold on, you did see that that last Bourne film he did, didn't you?
Which is my favorite Bourne. That's my favorite Bourne. We've got Jeremy Renner. I actually think that's the best
video game.
I think he can do some really good performances. I think he's done some trash ones like Wind River, which me and Rhino agree with. Yeah, but I think In the Town is fantastic. Which I know you disagree.
He's fine. He's a bit over the
look. If anyone's a fan of the Ren Dog, it's just SWAT. Of a SWAT.
Yeah, it's SWAT. 28 weeks
made
later.
him a household name.
I can't agree on Arrival. I actually quite liked it, and I don't particularly like Amy Adams. It's a bit of a slow burn for sure, but I think that is also one of the first times that Denis Villeneuve's films start to give you that sense of scale. You know, when you see that super weird.
It was an audition. It was 100% an audition for Dune. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's a similar style to a lot of the ships in Dune too. I love when directors have a style, like a visual style that's sort of like their calling card, like James Cameron with his Halo.
They all kind of like, Michael Bay has a very distinct style. Like, yeah,
Nolan,
Tarantino, even like, yeah. I mean, everybody's got that.
Tommy Wiseau, very clear style.
Tommy Wiseau, yeah. Everything's got a flower shop.
But you're right. I mean, that's essentially the audition for what would be, Dune for sure. Elements of Blade Runner in there. Those really big, expansive sort of things that I keep saying this, right? So it's clear that I think of that as being a hallmark of Denis Villeneuve is this space and the sense of scale and size. And I know that's something he worked up to. But yeah, I think Arrival kind of is the welcoming of that age for him.
Yeah, certainly Hollywood said so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. And I'm not that I didn't like it, but with all those movies that came out, I find it's like the one that I think about the least, or like was just a bit like, well, that was fine.
Which is interesting. Sorry, I just to cut you off, but it's interesting for a high concept film that's one you didn't think about, because that's what it's going for. It's going for a real think piece of the movie. That's what I thought.
I think I just have a subtle mind. I was like, getting your daughter back. Yeah, I'm on board. You know, like language and shit. You know,
you just want stories that feel like real stories.
Yeah, I just want milk that tastes
like
real
milk. There's only 3% fat.
Yeah, only 2% fat.
Anyway, we're running short on time, so we'll say our last thoughts. I don't think we have time for least favorite, but I will say that I went back and watched his earlier films. I watched Polytechnique, which is about a school shooting in Ottawa. I watched Maelstrom, which is about a woman who has an abortion and feels horrible guilt about. And I watched Incendies, which is about two twins who return to Lebanon to uncover their past. And all three of these movies I hated, like truly despised, and like made me reevaluate his later stuff, which I, liked, obviously, as we've discussed. But these early movies I fucking hated. And like a lot of them are spoilery and we don't have much time, but I will just say that he's clearly improved as a director, because go back and watch those earlier ones and they're difficult.
I would just say as well, Ensendé is one that I've seen. I did a bit of Oh yeah, sorry. He was still French then. He wasn't
Okay,
French
by the way,
American.
you said Richard Deakins earlier. It's Roger Deakins. I wasn't going to say
Sorry, Roger
anything,
Deakins.
but you
Yeah, well-
corrected my
No, thank you. Thank
French
you.
pronunciation. So fuck you. No, it's joking. Go on.
No, I told you I listened to this podcast for research, and he was saying the name, and he said Encendu. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's one that I have seen, and I was sort of listening to him talk about his early days. Something I didn't know about Denis Villeneuve is that he started and kind of got his big break doing docos. That's like 5-minute docos. Is where he got his origins, and that's for him why he likes to. When you hear him speak, he really buys into the whole. Oh, it's about the human spirit. I like to explore. Really issues that are close to our souls and things that are relatable to everyone, because he kind of naturally likes to tell the stories of humans. And I think when you look at his earlier films and knowing that he comes from that background of documentary making, it explains a lot. And then you see sort of that clear-cut moment, which maybe Arrival is about it, where he starts to go, oh, I'm in Hollywood, Hans Zimmer sent me a message, and there's a real change there. I have respect for his older films, but you've got to see them through that lens of a nerdy French film student making docos.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It does feel a bit weird, the topics that he does make movies about in those early years, being like the whitest French-Canadian guy ever, like doing a story about Middle Eastern children and doing a story about like horrible rapes and things. It's like, that makes a lot of sense. He's like, I'm just covering all these different stories, right? So yeah, that explains a bit. I still didn't very much like them.
I think we got to respect that he's just like, no genre is off limits for him. I mean, like, as much as we all like, let's say Quentin, he's got his style and he should never
Maybe
change
pornography. I don't think he's done one yet.
I don't know.
I'll probably watch past like a certain part of it,
Hans Zimmer doing the climax scene?
Oh my god! Yeah, he'll just keep you going with his shepherd's song, where he just builds up and builds up and builds up, and you just don't get it.
I probably wouldn't delete that history,
This is a great ending to the podcast. We've got 30 seconds left, so any more thoughts on...
Yeah, you guys want to sign off?
Yeah.
What are we?
Way back in the beard.
Way back in the beard, coming from your living room.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Thanks for having us, guys. It's been great.
Thanks for being on.
It's been good fun.
A lot of fun.
It's been fun.
We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Hack the Fraud.